Welcome back to the Truth Factory. First, let's start off with my favorite story of the day. Donald Trump allegedly spoke out at an immigration meeting at the White House earlier, stating that the United States was having all these people from shithole countries come here, allegedly referring to African countries and Haiti. Now, of course, the mainstream press is flipping their politically correct wigs over this statement, but as blunt as Trump is, can you really dispute his claims about this? Haiti and most of Africa are, almost objectively, shitholes. That's why we're constantly being bombarded with programs and charity to raise money to keep the people who live in those countries alive. Also, no sane person travels to Haiti for fun. If you are traveling there, you will most likely get your organs harvested by Hillary Clinton if you don't die of malaria first. If those countries weren't shitholes, there wouldn't be such an active drive to emigrate from them in the first place. It's not nice to say, it's not politically correct to say, but it's true. Now, of course, I'm not saying that there aren't some well-educated, skilled people that could be an asset from any of those countries. I'm talking about the averages here. And for an example, let's look at Europe that just allowed mass immigration from many African countries. Does that look like a good idea in retrospect? Now on to the real story that I want to talk about. The internet is a virtual superhighway of almost unlimited information at our fingertips. It's connected people from all around the world for more than 2 decades. It's become a staple in our lives, and in many ways we greatly depend on it. You're using it right now to listen to this video. And without certain platforms like YouTube or Twitter, independent news sources like myself wouldn't exist, and you would probably still be getting all of your information from mainstream news networks. For that reason, it's extremely important to me that these websites remain politically impartial on any speech or ideas that aren't illegal. If you're unaware, Project Veritas is back at it again in an undercover operation which probes into Twitter's inner workings of how things really get done there. James O'Keefe's latest video reveals that Twitter was shadow banning and creating algorithms that censor certain ideas.
The idea of the shadow ban is that you ban someone but they don't know they've been banned because they keep posting but no one sees their content.
Meanwhile, Alinda Hassan, a policy manager for Twitter's trust and safety team, explained that there's a development of a system of downranking shitty people in the works.
I tried to block people like Cernovich and stuff like that, and mute and stuff like that, but they still show up all the time.
That's something we're working on.
I mean, I don't know what to do.
We're working on where we're trying to get the shitty people not show up. It's a product thing we're working on.
Can you imagine what their morning meetings are like? How do we get all these shitty people off of this shithole website? Twitter content review agent Mo Nora explained that Twitter doesn't have an official written policy that targets conservative speech, but instead follows unwritten rules that come from the top about banning opinions that are problematic to their liberal agenda.
There are a lot of unwritten rules, and being that we're in San Francisco, we're in California, very liberal state, very blue state, you have to be, I mean, as a company you can't really say it because it'll make you look bad, but behind closed doors, a lot of stuff was like, hey, you have to do this way, or something like that. It was never written, it was more said.
James O'Keefe's undercover investigation has also revealed a senior network security engineer at Twitter suggesting that his company turns over the private communications and deleted tweets of President Donald Trump to the Department of Justice.
We're more than happy to help the Department of Justice in their little investigation.
Okay.
So,
How?
basically give him every single tweet that he's posted,
Okay.
even the ones he's deleted,
Okay.
any direct messages, any mentions.
This information about Twitter getting out is damning, as I don't know anyone who's comfortable with random Twitter employees being able to look at or share your personal messages. And I'm definitely sure many celebrities who use Twitter don't feel comfortable with that idea either.
You can absolutely look at every single message, every single tweet, whenever you log into, what profile pictures you upload, what profile pictures that you thought you were going to do.
Now, of course, Twitter has swiftly come out with statements to try to discredit James O'Keefe and states Twitter does not shadow ban accounts, but we do take actions to downrank accounts that are abusive and mark them accordingly so people can still click through and see these tweets if they choose. Nice try, f***heads, but this cat is out of the bag now. Effectively, they're saying, we don't shadow ban people, we just shadow ban people. And we hope that no one will notice. But this wasn't just one disgruntled Twitter employee they caught on camera. This was several employees that have exposed Twitter's practices in this video. This wasn't some editing trick here like Twitter wants you to believe. You can't put words in people's mouths. These employees were caught confessing, bragging, and partaking in specific political censorship and f***ery targeted at conservatives. Now, even if down somewhere in their terms of service it states that it's okay that they do this, terms of service have historically been shut down in courts in the past for overstepping, and as of yesterday, conservative provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos, who was banned from Twitter in 2016, has announced that he's joining Roger Stone's lawsuit against Twitter, and I for one hope they win.
Quote, "We continue to explore a broad lawsuit challenging Twitter censorship and the hypocrisy of their rules for online conduct, which seems to be disproportionately levied against conservative voices in an obvious attempt to silence us. Verified tweeters call for my murder online every day, but Twitter doesn't ban them." Continuing the quote, "We believe it is time to expose their manipulation of algorithms, shadow banning, and other online techniques used to limit our reach. It's time for Twitter to be regulated like a public utility or to perish."
Because up until now, it's been the Wild West for these big tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google, where if you're left-leaning, Twitter and YouTube are your megaphone, and if you're conservative, you get put in this virtual shithole box. And speaking of Google, it has the same issues that most Silicon Valley companies have. They're trying so hard to be politically correct and to balance the gender and race ratios in their company that they're actually discriminating against straight, white, conservative males. Former Google employee James Damore, who fits that demographic, sent a memo a few months ago to Google with solutions to their gender-based hiring issues backed up with scientific sources. This memo was problematic for Google because it forced them to address the elephant in the room. They tried really hard to suppress it, but ultimately, they fired James for hurting their feelings. Which brings us to now. Google has been served with a big fat lawsuit from Damore stating discrimination based off of his race, gender, and conservative views. James Damore's 161-page complaint is fairly damning, stating such things as Google having gender hiring quotas and that Google employees were encouraged to clap for female employees and boo at male employees. The report also claimed that there was a Google employee who sexually identified as a yellow-scaled wingless dragonkin and an expansive, ornate building.
What's fun about playing with a building? That's not any fun.
Who presented a talk entitled Living as a Plural Being at an internal company event. This isn't a joke, this is actually in the legal report. Having to treat people who sexually identify as dragons and buildings as totally rational beings is just a part of their work culture. But supporting Trump is apparently crazy and detrimental to their feelings, I guess. And who would want to have sex with a building? Now, political views are protected under California state labor laws. So you can't legally fire someone in California for having a particular political view. But Google's CEO said in an official statement that they did fire James because of his views. Google's best defense at this point would be to offer Damore a settlement, but it looks like Damore is out for blood instead, which I encourage. This lawsuit filed also reveals something very interesting. Google has silent alarms when well-known conservative figures enter Google's property. Some of the people on Google's blacklist include Alex Jones, Vox Day, and Curtis Yarvin, who's a well-known conservative blogger who's reportedly advised Steve Bannon, Peter Thiel, and other members of Trump's administration. And at one point, Curtis visited the Google office to have lunch with an employee. This triggered the silent alarm, alerting security because analytical thinking is dangerous at Google. Now, I don't think people fully grasp how eerie this is. Google literally has alarms when conservatives enter their property. You can't make something up this Orwellian. So it would not surprise me in the least if James O'Keefe goes after Google and YouTube next, as we know that they do censor conservatives. I myself have experienced censorship and demonetization, videos taken down for alleged hate speech, videos taken down for what I was told were meta tag errors. I've had a video mass downvoted by Russian bots with no real response from YouTube about that. And that's where I'm going to end this video. So thank you so much. If you do enjoy these videos and what I do, perhaps consider donating to my Patreon, my PayPal, my Maker Support, or my Bitcoin wallet, as YouTube isn't a huge fan of supporting me. Thank you so much for letting me do what I love, and have a great night. Meow.